Every one of you knows someone. Go tell a CEO, go tell your father, go tell your mother, go tell somebody that Bitcoin's going to change the world and they should figure out more about it, because the number one thing you can do is educate the world on Bitcoin and let people know they need to figure out Bitcoin. And every one of you does make a difference, because I would never get those meetings if it wasn't like someone that went and said, you got to pay attention. And my last point to you, you do not sell your Bitcoin. Thank you.
Have you ever had to explain Bitcoin because someone asked you? Because it is your duty to teach the world about Bitcoin. Yes, you. There's no one else. And if you're able to teach it, that means you understand it, and you understand how to make the most out of this lucrative opportunity. Global crypto adoption is only at 4.2%. You are statistically early, but it won't always remain that way. And in order for you to teach it and bring those you love along for the journey, there's a few things you must know about Bitcoin. When fiat money loses value, investors can turn to the longest standing form of money, gold. Gold is valuable because it meets certain requirements. It's fungible, it's durable, it's scarce, and a list of many other traits. These are the properties that give gold value. It's not because it's shiny, it's not because it's pretty, although those are added benefits. It is because gold meets these requirements. And you know what else meets these requirements? Bitcoin, except Bitcoin does them even better.
It's digitizing gold in many ways. Instead of investing in gold as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against the onerous problems of any one country, or the devaluation of your currency, whatever country you're in. Let's be clear, Bitcoin is an international asset. It's not based on any one currency. And so it can represent an asset that people can play as an alternative.
I own many more times gold than I own Bitcoin. But frankly, if the gold bet works, the Bitcoin bet will probably work better because it's thinner and more liquid and has a lot more beta to it.
And what has kept gold so valuable over the years compared to other metals such as silver is that gold has remained scarce. The other precious metals have not. But gold has assumed scarcity. The total supply is unknown. For all we know, when Elon gets to space, he may find a huge supply of gold up there. But with Bitcoin, we know the supply is 21 million coins.
Bitcoin is trusted, it's largely censorship resistant. There will only and ever be 21 million Bitcoins. It will have to be a component in a portfolio of broad portfolios, like a pension fund, maybe just to a small extent, but it will have to be there. And then there are all other cryptocurrencies. Ethereum's in a special class, of course, stablecoins, and then everything else looks like a speculative stock. Maybe if you invest in it, you make money. Maybe you lose all of your money.
And because gold meets the properties we went over a few moments ago, it has reached a $13 trillion market cap. Bitcoin currently only has a $540 billion market cap, tiny. And if Bitcoin were to reach the market cap of gold, that would put Bitcoin at over 600,000 per coin. And that is if Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold. If Bitcoin surpasses the market cap of gold, you can do the math. Already at this point, you know more about the history of money compared to the masses. But did you know this about Bitcoin? It is a money that is not controlled by one person or even 10 people, but instead by thousands and thousands of people all over the world. This is the first time in history something like this has existed. But why is that important? Because it's the first time we have a money where the tokenomics and the supply cannot be manipulated. The old system of money requires just a few people to make a decision. But with Bitcoin, there is a massive network. And in order to make a change, we would need majority of the network to agree. Because fiat currency is controlled by just a few people, every fiat currency in history has been manipulated into the ground. Even that of the Roman Empire, who used precious metals, real money. They eventually debased their currency by adding less precious metals to the coin, and eventually the Roman Empire collapsed. When you have just a few individuals controlling the money, they will drive it into the ground every time. And you can learn a lot about the history of money from the book, The Bitcoin Standard. This is one of my favorite books, and I definitely would recommend it to you if you want to sharpen your money skills, especially since it is your duty to teach the world about Bitcoin. You can also join my private community where we go deep into topics like this on live calls, linked down below. No fiat currency survives, none. The US dollar is down 96% since 1913. Meanwhile, we have countries experiencing hyperinflation. Venezuela, over 1,000%. Sudan, over 300%. Look at what's happening in Lebanon right now.
After decades of war and bad spending decisions by the government, Lebanon's economy is in ruin. I'm speaking to people who've had their life savings wiped out. There are fuel shortages and power cuts, a local currency that's lost 95% of its value, and crucially, money trapped in the bank. People are literally robbing banks at gunpoint to demand access to their own cash. And because of this, a sort of shadow crypto economy has emerged. So we're talking about locals mining for Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Litecoin to earn money because they can't find work. Others are getting paid in Bitcoin by finding freelance gigs on Reddit and then treating Bitcoin like their bank because they think it's the safest way to store their savings. I also spoke to multiple people who are arranging meetings in Telegram to swap the stablecoin Tether for actual US dollars, which they then use to buy groceries. Overwhelmingly, what I keep hearing is that people are desperate for a connection to money that actually makes sense, and decentralized digital currencies that are outside the reach of bankers and politicians makes a whole lot more sense than the Lebanese lira right now.
Your friends and family have no clue this is how money works. No one ever told them. But you might have friends or family who want a very simple explanation for Bitcoin. They don't care about scarcity and fungibility and market caps. They just want to know, what is Bitcoin? How is this digital money different from the digital money we already use today? Here's what you tell them. I love this simple explanation. Let's say there was one person keeping score of a basketball game. Whatever that person says is the score, we have to believe him. But what if we have 5 people keeping score of the game and the score is 10-2, but one of those people says, no, the score is actually 10-6. Those 4 will look at that one guy and say, you know what? You're wrong. Get out of here. But what if that one guy who says the score is actually 10-6 is very influential? Or what if it's their boss and he says, no, it is 10-6. If you don't change it, I will fire you. Well, they have to agree. But what happens as there's more scorekeepers? Let's say you have 100 scorekeepers keeping track of the basketball game. And out of those 100, 3 say, you know what? You guys are all wrong. This is actually the score. The rest of the group will look at those 3 people and dismiss them, ignore them. And as the group grows, it's harder to lie about the score of the game. If you have 1,000 people keeping score of the basketball game and the score is 10-2, but then 50 people say, you know what? It's actually 10-6. Those 50 people will be ignored. Even if it's 100 people, even if it's 200 people, they will be ignored. And this is what Bitcoin is. It's a database, a way of keeping information. That's really what blockchain is. But there are so many people keeping score that it remains the truth. Whereas with the old system, it relies on just one person or a few people. The old system of money is similar to one person or 5 people keeping score of the basketball game. They can lie, they can be manipulated. But the new system with Bitcoin, it is thousands and thousands of people from all over the world keeping score. And you can use this database to keep score of digital money. This is such a fundamental, important concept. Rewind this if you have to, because it is your duty to teach the world about Bitcoin.
Go tell your mother, go tell somebody that Bitcoin's going to change the world and they should figure out more about it, because the number one thing you can do is educate the world on Bitcoin and let people know they need to figure out Bitcoin. And every one of you does make a difference, because I would never get those meetings if it wasn't like someone that went and said, you got to pay attention.